side of the can it says, "These sips don't lie." Week four in the NFL. It was a little bit tumultuous, was it not? The coronavirus, getting in there, messing up the Steelers and the Titans, and then also messing up the Patriots. So fantasy football wise, I got destroyed. I got absolutely destroyed. Picks were not very good this week either. I went 9-6 on my picks. I obviously changed the Patriots Chiefs pick after Cam went out with the coronavirus, but 9-6. Yeah, not too good, but I'm gonna bounce back next week, I think. Alright, on Thursday night, the Denver Broncos defeated the New York Jets 37-28. For the Broncos, Brett Rippon got the start. He completed 19 of 31 attempts for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a QBR of 63.9 and a rating of 67.6. Melvin Gordon carried the rock 23 times for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 43-yarder to seal the game. Patrick had 6 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown. Jerry Jeudy had 2 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. For the New York Jets, Sam Darnold completed 23 of 42 attempts for 230 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 73.1 and a rating of 70.5. He also carried the rock 6 times for 84 yards and a touchdown, including a 46-yard scamper, which he had a pretty nice juke on that run. Frank Gore carried the rock 13 times for 30 yards. Crowder had 7 receptions for 104 yards. Smith had 7 receptions for 81 yards. Denver gets their first win. The Jets remain winless. Alright, the Cleveland Browns defeated the Dallas Cowboys 49-38. This game was bananas. I'll go over the stats first. Baker Mayfield was 19 of 30 for 165 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 60.6 and a rating of 100. Jarvis Landry had a touchdown pass, 1 of 1 for 37 yards and a touchdown to Odell Beckham Jr. A QBR of 100 and a rating of 158.3. Dearness Johnson carried the rock 13 times for 95 yards. Odell Beckham Jr. carried the rock twice for 73 yards and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt carried the rock 11 times for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb carried the rock 6 times for 43 yards before leaving the game with a knee injury. I think they said he's going to be out about 6 weeks. Odell Beckham Jr. had 5 receptions for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. Have a game, Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ had a really good game. Jarvis Landry had 5 receptions for 48 yards. Alright. Dak Prescott completed 41 of 58 attempts for 502 yards. My goodness. 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 75.7 and a rating of 112.9. And they lost. Ezekiel Elliott carried the rock 12 times for 54 yards. Pollard carried the rock 3 times for 16 yards and a touchdown. Amari Cooper had 12 receptions for 134 yards and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb had 5 receptions for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. Schultz had 4 receptions for 72 yards and a touchdown. This game was crazy, okay? Cleveland was up like, it looked like Cleveland was going to win this thing, no problem. receptions for 39 yards. For Miami, Ryan Fitzpatrick completed 29 of 45 attempts for 315 yards. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a QBR of 61.8, and a rating of 66.4. He also carried the rock 6 times for 47 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Parker had 10 receptions for 110 yards. The Seahawks scored with right before the half. They got the ball with 24 seconds left. So Miami kicked a field goal with 24 seconds left in the second quarter, and it was 10-9. Seattle was winning 10-9 after Miami kicked the field goal. So they got the ball with 20 seconds left, and they went all the way down and scored a touchdown right before halftime. That was really the backbreaker. So they went up 17-9, and yeah, that was a tough one. Russell Wilson, I gotta tell you, between him and Aaron Rodgers right now, they look like they're on a mission. The Carolina Panthers defeated the Arizona Cardinals 31-21. For Arizona, Kyler Murray was 24 of 31 for 133 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 69.9, and a rating of 116.7. He also carried the rock 6 times for 78 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 7 receptions for 41 yards. For the Carolina Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, completed 26 of 37 attempts for 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 93.6 and a rating of 98.5. Good game from Teddy Bridgewater. Davis carried the rock 16 times for 84 yards and a touchdown. Anderson had 8 receptions for 99 yards. Samuel had 3 receptions for 51 yards. That was the West Coast to East Coast upset that I should have picked right there, not the Seahawks and the Dolphins. So, alright, moving on here. The Cincinnati Bengals got their first win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 33-25. For Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew was 27 of 40 for 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 40.9, and a rating of 101.1. Robinson carried the rock 17 times for 75 yards. DJ Chark Jr. had 8 receptions for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. A big game from DJ Chark. For Cincinnati, Joey Burrow, completed 25 of 36 attempts for 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a QBR of 54.9, and a rating of 92.4. Joe Mixon had a big day after being questionable to play. Big game from Joe Mixon, 25 carries for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 6 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Boyd had 7 receptions for 90 yards. Cincinnati 1-2-1 now. Jacksonville lost to 1-3. I think that the Bengals should consider sitting Joe Burrow. He's taken some big hits now this week. I didn't watch the game, and he did only take 1 sack on the stat sheet, so maybe he was a little bit better protected against Jacksonville. From what I saw in the first 3 games, he was getting killed back there, and also from what we've seen in the first 4 games, I think that Joe Burrow is the guy. So I think that's the guy there in Cincinnati, and you do not want to get him hurt. Alright, moving on here. The New Orleans Saints defeated the Detroit Lions. The New Orleans Saints defeated the Detroit Lions 35-29. Drew Brees completed 19 of 25 attempts for 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 88.2, and a rating of 116.4. Alvin Kamara carried the rock 19 times for 83 yards and a touchdown. Latavius Murray carried it 14 times for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. Emmanuel Sanders had 6 receptions for 93 yards. Smith had 4 receptions for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. For the Lions, Matt Stafford completed 17 of 31 attempts for 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 75.4, and a rating of 94.3. Adrian Peterson carried the rock 11 times for 36 yards and a touchdown. Kenny Galladay had 4 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. Detroit went up 14-0 really quickly in this game, and I had picked them to upset the Saints, but they kind of fell apart after that. They tried to make a comeback, and it was just too little too late. I think that Detroit's coach, Matt Patricia, he might be the next one to go. We saw one coach get fired this week. I think next up, Adam Gase or Matt Patricia, the Jets coach or the Lions coach. So be on the lookout for that in this coming season. Alright, moving on here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Los Angeles Chargers coming from behind. Was not a good start for the Bucs, but they came back. The Buccaneers defeated the Chargers 38-31. For Los Angeles, Justin Herbert completed 20 of 25 passes for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 86, and a rating of 137.9. I think that Justin Herbert's going to be pretty good. I think he's going to be pretty good in this league. He also carried the rock 5 times for 14 yards. Austin Eckler carried it 2 times for 12 yards before he hurt his hamstring, I think. Guyton had 1 reception for 72 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen had 8 receptions for 62 yards. A beauty. He had 1 that was a really nice catch. Johnson had 1 reception for 53 yards and a touchdown. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady completed 30 of 46 attempts for 369 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 85.2, and a rating of 117. Jones carried the rock 20 times for 111 yards. Mike Evans had 7 receptions for 122 yards and a touchdown. Scotty Miller had 5 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. O.J. Howard had 3 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown. O.J. Howard, by the way, done for the season. A ruptured Achilles tendon. Look, the Buccaneers look like they're getting better every week, and I think they have a real shot to win that division. The Baltimore Ravens defeated the Washington football team 31-17. For the Ravens, Lamar Jackson completed 14 of 21 attempts for 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 94.9, and a rating of 107.8. He also carried the rock 7 times for 53 yards and a touchdown, including a nice 50-yard touchdown scamper. Edwards carried the rock 9 times for 38 yards. Ingram carried it 8 times for 34 yards and a touchdown. Baltimore does like to run the ball. Marquise Hollywood Brown had 4 receptions for 86 yards. Andrews had 3 receptions for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. For Washington, Dwayne Haskins completed 32 of 45 attempts for 314 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 31.5 and a rating of 90.4. Gibson carried the rock 13 times for 46 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin had 10 receptions for 118 yards. Scary Terry. They put Dwayne Haskins on notice and said that if he didn't improve, then they were going to give him the hook. So we'll see if he did enough this week to keep his job. Not terrible. I QBR is pretty bad, 31.5. That's a bad QBR, but the rating was 90.4. That's not too bad. No interceptions. 314 yards. 32 of 45. Not too bad. Not bad. Not bad. Not enough to give him the hook, I don't think, but if Ron Rivera hasn't liked what he's seen so far, he might. Okay, the Minnesota Vikings defeated the Houston Texans to get their first win. 31-23 for Minnesota. Kirk Cousins completed 16 of 22 attempts for 260 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, a QBR of 68.4 and a rating of 127.1. Dalvin Cook had himself a day. Dalvin Cook carried the rock 27 times for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Madison had 7 carries for 17 yards and a touchdown as well. Adam Thielen had 8 receptions for 114 yards and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson had 4 receptions for 103 yards. He's having a really nice season so far. Good rookie year for him. For the Houston Texans, dumpster fire. Deshaun Watson completed 20 of 33 attempts for 300 yards. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. QBR of 37.9 and a rating of 110.7. Johnson & Johnson in the backfield. Let's see, David Johnson carried the rock 16 times for 63 yards. And Duke Johnson carried it 5 times for 24 yards. That's kind of funny, Johnson & Johnson back there. Will Fuller had 6 receptions for 108 yards and a touchdown. Kenny Stills had 2 receptions for 39 yards and a touchdown. Houston almost tied it up at the end, but there was a pass to Will Fuller in the end zone, and he didn't have total control of it, and it hit the ground, and they ruled it incomplete. So after the game, Houston fired their head coach and GM, Bill O'Brien. Overdue. A little bit overdue, in my opinion. Look, Houston, I said dumpster fire because, listen to this, Houston, they don't have a first or second round draft pick in this draft, this upcoming draft, and they have the highest payroll in the league. I mean, they should have gotten rid of Bill O'Brien earlier. They should have gotten rid of him earlier. Los Angeles Rams defeated the New York Giants 17-9. A little bit of drama in this game as well. For the Giants, Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, completed 23 of 36 attempts for 190 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 42.1, and a rating of 65.7. Coleman carried the rock 6 times for 45 yards. Daniel Jones also carried the rock 6 times interceptions, a QBR of 92.9, and a rating of 115.8. Singletary carried the rock 18 times for 55 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs had 6 receptions for 115 yards. For the Raiders, Carr completed 32 of 44 attempts for 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 89.8, and a rating of 107.3. Josh Jacobs carried the rock 15 times for 48 yards. Darren Waller had 9 receptions for 88 yards. Carr loves throwing to Darren Waller. Loves it. Buffalo undefeated, still 4-0. Las Vegas falls to 2-2. The Sunday night game, the Philadelphia Eagles get a win. They get a win in the win column. They beat the San Francisco 49ers 25-20. For Philly, Carson Wentz completed 18 of 28 attempts for 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a QBR of 73.7, and a rating of 81.4. Miles Sanders carried the rock 13 times for 46 yards. Carson Wentz carried it 7 times for 37 yards and a touchdown. Travis Fulgham had 2 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. No idea who that is. But he was their leading receiver. For San Francisco, Nick Mullins was 18 of 26 for 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a QBR of 13, and a rating of 72.6 before he was benched. For CJ Beathard. CJ Beathard was 14 of 19 for 138 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 73.9, and a rating of 93.7. Jerick McKinnon carried the rock 14 times for 54 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk had 1 carry for 38 yards and a touchdown. That run was amazing. He hurdled somebody completely to get into the end zone. George Kittle had 15 receptions for 183 yards and a touchdown. Have a day, George Kittle, but San Francisco still lost. They almost came back. And won. CJ Beathard drove him down the field. The 2-minute drill. So, San Francisco scored a touchdown with 2:02 left in the game, and they missed the 2-point conversion. So it was a 5-point game. So 25-20. If they would have had the 2-point conversion, then they just would have needed a field goal to tie it and maybe win it in overtime. But they didn't get the 2-point conversion. They tried to kick. They tried to recover an onside kick. They did not. Philly got the onside kick with 2:02 left, and San Francisco stopped them. Used their timeouts, to save the clock. Got the ball back, and they went down. They had a chance in the end zone on the last play, but Philly ended up prevailing. It was a little bit nerve-wracking if you're a Philly fan. One of my friends is a Philly fan, and I was texting with him about the game, and when the Eagles, they got to pick 6 in the 4th quarter with 5:42 left to go up 25-14. We were like, all right, that's it. It's a wrap. They're not going to blow that. And then they almost did. I was like, oh, we really almost jinxed that, but they did hold on. So they get a win in the win column, and San Francisco now 2-2. You don't want to fall too far behind in that division. The NFC West is tough. The NFC East, on the other hand, the Eagles are on top of right now at 1-2-1. 1-2-1 in first place, thanks to the Cowboys losing to the Browns, Washington losing to Baltimore, and the Giants are over. So yeah, that whole division's just hot garbage. Jarrett Stidham. He was 5 of 13 for 60 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a QBR of 42.2, and a rating of 39.4. Not a particularly great night for him either. Harris carried the rock 17 times for 100 yards. Burkhead carried it 11 times for 45 yards. Bird had 5 receptions for 80 yards. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes was 19 of 29 for 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 59.5, and a rating of 113.6. Clyde Edwards-Helaire carried the rock 16 times for 64 yards. Travis Kelce had 3 receptions for 70 yards. Tyreek Hill had 4 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown. Alright, so this game, it was interesting, and also it was a little bit of I felt like a little bit of karma coming towards the Patriots. Don't you feel like that? It seemed to me that the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes were getting calls that the Patriots and Tom Brady have been getting over the years. The Duck Rule game in the playoffs versus the Raiders. The game against the Jaguars, Miles Jack. The game against the Jaguars. So, Patrick Mahomes in this game, he was getting sacked and fumbled the ball, and the Patriots recovered it, and then they ruled it. The refs ruled that Patrick Mahomes was in the grasp. So basically they just ruled it a sack before he fumbled, but it should have been a fumble and it should have been the Patriots' ball. There was also an unnecessary roughness call against the Patriots that was kind of bogus as well. But yeah, I just feel like a little bit of karma. I feel like a little bit of karma coming the Patriots' way, maybe. A la the Duck Rule, a la Miles Jack, a la Spygate, etc., 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 etc. But boy, Bill Belichick, I'll tell you what, if Cam Newton would have played that game, the Patriots would have won. Bill Belichick had a really good plan. I mean, are we surprised? He had a really good plan. He held the Kansas City Chiefs in check for most of the game, and had the quarterback play not been so terrible for the Patriots, they probably would have gotten a dub. Alright, in the late game, the Green Bay Packers defeated the Atlanta Falcons 30-16. For the Falcons, Matt Ryan was 28 of 39 for 285 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 79.7 and a rating of 92.4. Todd Gurley carried the rock 16 times for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. Zacchaeus had 8 receptions for 86 yards. Julio Jones did not play in this game. For the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers was 27 of 33. 27 of 33, completed 27 of 33 attempts for 327 yards. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, a QBR of 96.9 and a rating of 147.5. Ballin'. Aaron Jones carried the rock 15 times for 71 yards. Tanyan had 6 receptions for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns. Have a day. Robert Tanyan, the tight end for the Packers. Williams had 8 receptions for 95 yards. Aaron Jones had 5 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. So, in this game, no Devontae Adams, no Alan Lazard. So, Aaron Rodgers was just balling out onto his tight ends and tight ends and running backs. But 27 of 33 without Devontae Adams and without Alan Lazard. So, I think the Green Bay Packers put everybody on notice. Look, I know it's against the Falcons, okay, and they've looked terrible this year. But the thing that's really impressive is that he did it with no receiver. Aaron Rodgers put up those numbers, and he did not have a through the season, you've put yourself in a really good position to make a deep playoff run. Alright, so that's week 4. Some power rankings. Okay, we've got, here's all the undefeated teams. Buffalo is 4-0. Pittsburgh's 3-0. Tennessee's 3-0. Kansas City's 4-0. Green Bay's 4-0. Seattle's 4-0. Those are your undefeated teams now. Pittsburgh and Tennessee were supposed to play each other this week, but they did not. As far as my power rankings go, I think I gotta go with the Green Bay Packers number 1. I'm gonna go with the Green Bay Packers number 1, Kansas City number 2. And it's close. It's very close. I don't know, I might go Kansas City 1, but look, Kansas City was held in check